Raymond had just finished loading the last bag of groceries into the trunk of his black SUV when his phone vibrated. He glanced at the screen and smiled. Another payment alert. Another multi-million deal completed. That was when a soft voice interrupted him. "Good afternoon, sir." Raymond looked up. Standing beside his half-open window was a poorly dressed woman in a faded wrapper. Her sandals were worn out, and she held nothing in her hands except a small, withered Bible. She offered a gentle smile. "Sir, may I pray for you? It will only take a minute." Without giving her a second look, he shook his head. "No." The woman didn't move. "Sir, God placed something in my heart concerning—" "I said I am not interested." The words cut through her sentence. She swallowed quietly. "I'm sorry for disturbing you, sir." She stepped away from the vehicle. Raymond returned to his phone as if nothing had happened. But Florence couldn't move. Something inside her wouldn't let her leave. The burden only grew stronger. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath. She walked back towards the SUV. This time, she didn't knock. She simply stood where Raymond could see her. He looked up, irritation spreading across his face. "What now?" "Sir," her voice trembled, "please, may I have just 1 minute of your time? I have an urgent message for you." Raymond's patience snapped. His door flew open. He stepped out so abruptly that several people in the parking lot turned towards them. "I said, leave me alone." His voice echoed across the mall entrance. "You people never stop." Florence froze. "You pretend to be praying for people just to steal from them." People slowed their steps. Some stopped completely. Raymond pointed a finger at her. "I know your type. Messenger of doom. Professional beggars. You tell people fake visions so they will panic and give you money." Florence lowered her head. "I wasn't asking for enough." Raymond barked. "If you want money, go and work. Stop being a burden to the society. You people are becoming a nuisance." A ripple of murmurs spread through the small crowd. Florence could feel dozens of eyes on her. Her cheeks burned with shame. She wished the ground would open beneath her feet. Without saying a word, she hurried away, keeping her face down as tears blurred her vision. She disappeared behind a row of parked cars before finally allowing herself to cry. Back inside his SUV, Raymond slammed the door. "What nonsense! Everywhere you go, they are looking for who to deceive." He shook his head in disgust. That night, Florence lay awake on the thin mattress in her tiny room. She couldn't sleep. Again and again, Raymond's word replayed in her mind. "Professional beggar. You are a burden to society." She covered her face with both hands. Tears slipped through her fingers. "Lord," her voice broke. "I was only trying to obey you." Silence filled the room. After a long while, she whispered again. "If you keep sending me to people, why do you send me looking like this?" She looked around the little room, the cracked walls, the leaking roof. Another tear rolled down her cheek. If I stepped out of a beautiful car, if I dressed rich, would he have listened? The question lingered in the darkness. For the first time, she questioned the calling she had carried for years. "Lord, if you truly want to speak to people, please establish me first. I don't want my poverty to silence the message you've placed inside me." Exhausted from crying, Florence eventually drifted into sleep. Then the dream came. She found herself standing inside a dark place, cold, silent. A heavy iron cage stood before her. Inside it was Raymond. His expensive suit was torn. His face was drenched with sweat. He gripped the iron bars desperately. "Please, help me. I can't breathe." Florence stared at him. She noticed the cage wasn't locked. The key hung only a few inches away. All she had to do was reach out. But then, another picture flashed through her mind. The parking lot, the crowd, his voice. Professional beggar, you are a nuisance. Her hand slowly withdrew. Raymond's cries grew louder. Please! She turned away. The cries echoed behind her. Then she woke up with a sharp gasp. Her heart pounded. A quiet prompting settled in her spirit. Pray for him. She closed her eyes tightly. The words he had spoken still hurt. She wanted to obey, but the wound was fresh. She remained seated on the edge of her bed, saying nothing as dawn slowly broke outside her window. The following afternoon, Florence kept her head down as she walked through the crowded open markets. She had no destination in mind. Her feet simply carried her from one stall to another, while her mind replayed yesterday's humiliation. She had made up her mind, never again. If people wanted to perish because they ignored God's warning, then so be it. As she turned a corner near a pharmacy, someone hurried past and crashed into her shoulder. The impact sent the small bag in her hand to the ground. Watch where you are. The voice stopped halfway. Raymond. He looked at her for a brief moment before recognizing her. His face tightened. You again? Florence bent to pick up her bag. I wasn't following you. Raymond laughed sarcastically. What a coincidence. He adjusted his expensive wristwatch. So, what is it this time? Another prophecy or another prayer? Florence remained silent. She wanted to walk away. She truly did. Then, that familiar burden returned. It was so strong that her heart began beating faster. Not again, Lord. Please, not him. She squeezed her eyes shut for a brief second. When she opened them again, the words came out before she could stop them. Sir, there is danger around you. Raymond folded his arms. Oh, really? She ignored the sarcasm. Contend, Lord, with those who contend with me. Fight against those who fight against me. Pray it with all your heart. Pray against every plan of wicked people concerning your life and your business. Please don't ignore it. For a moment, Raymond simply stared at her. Then he burst into laughter, a loud, mocking laugh. Several shoppers turned to look. You people are unbelievable. He shook his head in amusement. So, this is the new method? You've upgraded from begging to giving Bible verses. Florence lowered her eyes. I know exactly what you came for. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a thick fold of money. He separated a few bills and stretched them towards her. Take. She looked at the money but made no attempt to touch it. He waved it impatiently. Go ahead. I know what you really want. It's money. I'm in a good mood today, so take it. No drama, no fake visions, no mysterious messages. Just collect it and stop disturbing me. The people nearby began watching again. Florence felt her stomach tighten. The embarrassment was worse than the previous day. Slowly, she stepped backward. I wasn't asking for money. Raymond shrugged. Suit yourself. He slipped the cash back into his pocket. Next time, find someone more gullible. With that, he walked towards the waiting entrance of the luxury hotel, where two associates greeted him with smiles. Within seconds, they disappeared inside. Florence remained standing where she was. The noise of the market faded around her. She looked up at the sky. Tears gathered in her eyes. So, this is what obedience brings. She wiped her face. No more. If you truly sent me, you will have to send someone else. I can't keep standing before people only to be treated like a criminal. I won't do it anymore. She turned around and walked away. Behind her, Raymond climbed into another meeting with the confidence of a man who believed nothing could shake his word. His construction company had just secured 2 government contracts. His logistic firm had expanded into 3 more states. Banks competed to finance his projects. Business magazines called him one of the fastest rising entrepreneurs in the country. As far as Raymond was concerned, his future had never looked brighter. He never opened Psalm 35 that night. He never uttered a prayer. And within the shadows of the same city, there were men who had already begun discussing how to bring his empire to its knees. For the next 3 months, life went on exactly as Raymond expected. His companies kept winning contracts. His calendar remained fully booked. He traveled from one state to another, signing deals worth hundreds of millions. The encounter with the poor woman faded from his memory. To him, she was just another roadside beggar pretending to hear from God. Then, on a quiet Monday morning, the first crack appeared. His personal assistant rushed into his office, breathing heavily. "Sir, the ministry has suspended the road project." Raymond looked up from his laptop. "Suspended?" "Yes, sir. They said they are reviewing the contract." Raymond frowned. That had never happened before. Still, he wasn't worried. Government projects were often delayed. Leave it with legal, we will sort it out. The following week, another call came. One of his biggest foreign investors had pulled out. No explanation, no warning, just a brief email. "Due to recent concerns, we are withdrawing our investment." Raymond read the message twice. What concerns? Nobody seemed willing to answer. Days later, his finance director entered his office with another disturbing report. "Sir, the bank has frozen the release of our expansion loan." Raymond leaned forward. "Why?" "They are saying our risk profile has changed." "Changed because of what?" "We don't know yet." For the first time in years, Raymond felt uneasy. Within a month, the problems multiplied. A shipment of imported equipment was delayed indefinitely at the port over unexpected documentation issues. 2 long-time clients suddenly terminated contracts. A confidential proposal appeared in the hands of a competing company before Raymond had even submitted it. Someone inside the company was leaking information. He immediately ordered an internal investigation. Nothing. No evidence, no suspect. Then, social media joined the attack. Anonymous accounts began spreading stories that Raymond bribed officials to win contracts. Others claimed his company used substandard materials. The stories spread faster than his team could deny them. Television stations picked them up. Blogs repeated them. Clients became nervous. Some quietly walked away. Others demanded new audits before releasing payments. Cash flow slowed. Projects stalled. Salaries became difficult to pay. For the first time since founding his company, Raymond had to borrow money simply to keep operations running. Every morning brought another problem. Every evening ended with another emergency meeting. He stopped sleeping properly. His wife noticed the change. "You've barely eaten today." "I am not hungry." "You've been saying that every day." "I am fine." But he wasn't. He had never worked this hard only to watch everything crumble. One Friday afternoon, he gathered his senior management team. "I want answers." He looked from one face to another. "Someone is targeting this company." Again, there was silence. Nobody knew where the attacks were coming from. Nobody understood how competitors always seemed one step ahead. Across town, inside the private lounge of an exclusive members-only club, 4 wealthy businessmen sat around a polished table. Crystal glasses rested before them. The atmosphere was relaxed. One of them smiled as he swelled his drink. "He's beginning to panic." Another chuckled. "It took longer than I expected." A third man leaned back comfortably. "I told you, as long as he keeps refusing our invitation, he will never survive this industry." The oldest among them placed his glass on the table. He had 2 choices: join us or lose everything. He chose pride. The room fell quiet. Then one of the men asked, "Do you think he suspects us?" The oldest smiled. "No, he still believes this is just bad luck." They all laughed softly. Outside, thunder rolled across the evening sky. Back at the office, Raymond stood alone before the floor-to-ceiling window overlooking the city he had once believed he had conquered. His phone rang again. It was the bank. This time, they weren't calling to negotiate. They were demanding immediate repayment of several facilities after determining his businesses no longer met their lending conditions. 3 months. That was all it took for Raymond's empire to begin collapsing, like a building with a cracked foundation. One by one, he sold off his luxury cars. He told everyone it was a business decision. Only he knew it was survival. The banks were no longer patient. Letters demanding repayments arrived almost every week. When he couldn't meet the deadlines, they moved swiftly. Several company accounts were frozen. Heavy equipment was seized. Some of his properties were marked for auction. Projects stopped halfway. Construction sites that once buzzed with activity became eerily silent. Inside his headquarters, fear spread from office to office. Employees whispered in corners. Some resigned before things became worse. Others stayed, hoping for a miracle. Then came the hardest day of Raymond's career. He stood before hundreds of workers. Many had been with him from the beginning. His voice trembled as he spoke. "I am sorry, I can no longer keep the company running." That afternoon, hundreds of people lost their jobs. Some cried openly. Others walked away without saying a word. As if that wasn't enough, social media turned against him. His wife watched him fall apart one day at a time. "Raymond, you can't continue like this. I think we should seek spiritual help." He looked at her. "You've never believed in prophets." "I know," she nodded. "But this doesn't look ordinary anymore. Let's visit a church. Let's speak with the man of God." Raymond slowly shook his head. "No, I'll solve this." But he couldn't. Weeks later, his body began surrendering to the pressure. Crushing headaches became normal. His heart raced for no reason. Some nights, he woke up struggling to breathe. A medical checkup confirmed what everyone feared. His blood pressure was dangerously high. The doctor removed his glasses and looked him straight in the eyes. "If you continue like this, you may not survive another major emotional shock. You need complete rest. You also need to accept that not every battle is won by working harder." Raymond forced a weak smile. Rest? How could he rest when everything he had spent 20 years building was disappearing? Soon, depression crept in. The curtains in his bedroom remained closed for days. He barely touched food. His phone stayed switched off. He avoided everyone. Every night, he stared into the darkness, asking himself the same question: where did everything go wrong? He replayed every business decision, every investment, every partnership, every signature. Nothing made sense. Then, one sleepless night, a memory flashed through his mind. A worn wrapper, a trembling voice, a crowded parking lot. "Sir, please read Psalm 35. His eyes widened. He sat upright on the bed. The poor woman, Florence. Now, every word she spoke returned with frightening clarity. "Pray against every plan of wicked people concerning your life and your business." His hands began shaking. He climbed out of bed, opened the drawer beside him, picked up the Bible that had gathered dust for months. He turned to Psalm 35. Slowly, he began to read. Tears streamed down his face. He covered his mouth as regret crashed over him. She wasn't asking for money. She was trying to save me. The next morning, he drove back to the shopping mall. He searched every corner of the parking lot. Nothing. He approached one of the security guards. Excuse me, do you remember a woman who usually comes here? One clothes, always carrying a small bag. The guard frowned. No, sir. He questioned cleaners, shop attendants, food vendors. Nobody remembered Florence. Days turned into weeks, still no trace. Every failed search deepened his regrets. Meanwhile, Florence continued pretending she had moved on. But each morning, the same burden returned. Pray for Raymond. She would shake her head. Lord, I obeyed you twice. I was insulted twice. Please, send someone else. The burden never left. That night, another dream appeared. She stood on the shore of a dark river. The water was wide. Violent waves crashed against each other. Far ahead, she saw Raymond. He wasn't standing this time. He was drowning. His hands fought desperately against the water. He tried to scream, but every wave dragged him deeper. His strength was almost gone. Florence froze. Then she heard a voice behind her. Help him. She woke up with a loud gasp. Her heart pounded so hard she thought it would burst. She slid off the bed onto her knees. Then she began praying for Raymond with all her heart. Far away, in his dark bedroom, Raymond suddenly woke from sleep. He looked around in confusion. For the first time in many months, an unexplainable peace settled over his troubled heart. Florence prayed until dawn. When the first rays of sunlight crept through her tiny window, she was still on her knees. The burden had not lifted. If anything, it grew stronger. From that day forward, praying for Raymond became part of her daily routine. Every morning before leaving her house, she prayed. Every night before going to bed, she prayed. She no longer prayed because she felt obligated. She prayed because compassion had finally become greater than the pain he had caused her. Far across the city, Raymond had no idea someone was standing in the gap for him. He only knew one thing. He had to find Florence. He returned to the shopping mall again. He questioned security guards, food vendors, street traders. Nothing. It was as though she had disappeared from the face of the earth. Weeks passed. Every failed search left him more broken than before. Meanwhile, inside the private lounge where Raymond's competitors often met, laughter filled the room. Crystal glasses clinked together. One of the businessmen smiled confidently. His businesses are finished. The oldest among them leaned back in satisfaction. The pressure will finish him before the banks do. They laughed. None of them knew that their carefully laid plans were already beginning to unravel. A few days later, one of the rival companies was hit with a surprise financial investigation by federal authorities over suspicious transaction unrelated to Raymond. During the investigation, a senior accountant was arrested. Faced with overwhelming evidence and the possibility of a lengthy prison sentence, he chose to cooperate. His confession opened a door no one expected. He revealed years of corporate bribery, bid manipulation, money laundering, illegal payments to insiders. He also admitted that Raymond's company had been deliberately targeted. Investigators immediately widened the probe. Within days, they discovered that one of Raymond's trusted senior employees had secretly accepted large sums of money to leak confidential bidding documents and internal company strategies. When confronted with the evidence, the employee confessed. He named everyone involved. Emails were recovered. Bank transfers were traced. The conspiracy that had looked invisible suddenly became impossible to deny. Government agencies reopened Raymond's suspended contracts. Independent auditors confirmed that many allegations against his companies had been fabricated. Television stations that once condemned him now reported the new findings. Newspapers carried headlines that shocked the public. Businessman cleared as corporate sabotage network exposed. Clients who had abandoned him began making calls. Investors requested fresh meetings. Bank reviewed their earlier decisions, one after another. The businessmen behind the conspiracy were arrested. Not because anyone could prove the secret rituals they practiced behind closed doors, but because investigators uncovered undeniable evidence of fraud, conspiracy, bribery, financial crimes, and money laundering. Watching the news from his living room, Raymond sat in stunned silence. He finally understood. Florence had never been trying to frighten him. She had been trying to prepare him. The warning had been real. He closed his eyes. If only I had listened. His voice faded into quiet regret. Although the truth had finally come to light, Raymond's heart remained unsettled. His greatest desire was no longer restoring his wealth. It was finding the woman he had humiliated. Then one Saturday morning, as his driver slowed near a roadside market, Raymond noticed a familiar face. A woman stood beside a vegetable stall, carefully selecting tomatoes. She looked exactly as he remembered. The faded wrapper, the worn sandals, the gentle expression. "Stop the car!" Before the vehicle had completely halted, Raymond pushed the door open and hurried across the road. "Pastor!" She turned. Their eyes met. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then something happened that stunned everyone nearby. The wealthy businessman fell to his knees, right there on the dusty roadside. Market women stopped arranging their goods. Customers paused mid-conversation. Motorcyclists slowed to watch. The same kind of crowd that had watched Florence's humiliation months earlier now watched Raymond with tear-filled eyes. His voice trembled. "Please." She stared at him in silence. "Will you forgive me?" Tears streamed down his face. "And if it's not too late, will you pray for me?" Florence's eyes filled with tears. Without hesitation, she reached down and gently helped him to his feet. Her voice was soft. "I forgave you the day I started praying." Raymond looked at her in disbelief. You prayed for me?" She smiled. "Every day." Florence gently placed her hand on his shoulder. She closed her eyes. "Father, thank you for preserving the life of your son. Thank you because mercy spoke louder than pride. Restore what can be restored. But above all, give him a heart that will never again judge people by their appearance." When she finished praying, neither of them spoke for several seconds. The crowd quietly dispersed. The months that followed were different. Not everything returned overnight. Some businesses were gone forever. Some opportunities could never be recovered. But Raymond rebuilt with patience. His reputation gradually returned. New partnerships formed. The contracts that truly belonged to him were restored. Yet, the greatest change wasn't found in his bank account. It was found in his heart. Months later, after concluding a successful business meeting, Raymond walked towards his waiting vehicle. A poorly dressed elderly man approached him. One of his security officers immediately stepped forward. "Move away!" Raymond quickly raised his hand. "No." The guard stopped. Raymond smiled warmly and walked towards the old man himself. "Sir," he said gently, "what did you want to tell me?" The old man smiled. "I only wanted to pray for you." Raymond bowed his head. This time, he listened. I hope you enjoyed this story. If you love this one, you will love the next one showing on your screen. Click to watch it now. I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.